Thank you very much. Very good morning to all of you, all my international participants, as well as my national participants. I also want to thank profusely Ramesh Mishra ji, Arul Moi ji for looping me in this particular very interesting seminar, which is a symposium on heritage bilingualism. This particular area, I believe, is an intersection of several interesting strands: culture, cognition, linguistics, and perhaps even ethnogeography. Multiple strands of social sciences and hard sciences intersect and shape this business of lingualism, mono, bi, and multi. We in India are mostly multilinguals. We are heritage multilinguals. Many other societies are heritage mono or heritage bi. So you can see there is fair amount of human anisotropy in terms of how we process language learning. So it is in that sense, I find this is a very interesting, but also very futuristic area. Because in this area, as I studied, I'm a learner, I'm a student in this area. When I look at the happenings in this area, I see that there are very interesting challenges. We still do not have reliable quantifiers. We do not have very robust methodologies. And therefore, we are on an interesting but exciting slippery slope. And therefore, we must study it. Especially for my students here, I would urge that this area requires a lot of your deep attention. Many discoveries are likely to happen in this area in the years to come, in the decades to come, where we would have to learn about how language processing, language learning is intimately individualistic exercise, as Ramesh Mishra ji put it. Although there are individualistic traits in this business of language processing, I would believe there are some macro elements that one could extract across different cultures and develop some interesting models as step one in the process. There is one area which is extremely relevant in this domain of heritage learning, heritage language learning, and that is the domain of how brain becomes mind, and how mind becomes a cognitive apparatus, and how the cognitive apparatus, I'm using the word apparatus in a very narrow sense, deliberately, how that cognitive apparatus actually starts intersecting with elements in the society, elements in the human behavior, and elements in the language processing aspects coming from linguistics. So how does mind become an active entity that gives us this enormous power of showing abilities at individual level? Although the mind substratum is brain, and the substratum of brain is cluster of neurons, how is that fundamentals, the elements being the same, at individual level we manifest such huge diversity of so-called language processing phenotypes? This is equivalent to the dilemma that in biology we face, called genotype to phenotype. We all share nearly 99.9% identical genomes. but we all are nearly 100% dissimilar. How is that 99.9% identical substratum ultimately manifests as 100% divergent phenotypic processes? Is it chaotic system, or are there some fundamental principles that actually pattern us into what we are? I see some very interesting studies coming, I think mostly from the Western countries. I have not studied enough. I have not seen large scale Indian studies in this domain. In India, there is a huge migration, human migration. In the context of human migration, the heritage multilingualism is a very interesting dynamic topic. In Western countries, people have studied very clear models. The French migrating to English, the English to French, and then what happens to their language learning abilities, the natives versus the migrants. Similar studies we need to conduct in India to see how Indian language complexities gives us enormous advantages in relation to the social conflicts that we are going through. I believe language skills helps us harmonize ourselves in the social conflict that we are amidst of. This is a very interesting balancing force, in my opinion. This is my just feeling. I do not know whether there is hard evidence in any part of the world. So you can see that I can go on multiple fronts, but I do not want to take up too much of your time, but want to make one point and then probably pass it on to the organizers. And the point is that ultimately when brain becomes mind, becomes cognitive system, we are all transgressing into higher realm, systemic realm. Somehow the individual entities, their processing gets subsumed into a system, into a larger system called cognition. And that larger system is not simply a processing entity, but also an entity that acquires very interesting inputs from the society and culture. This is equivalent to genetics becoming epigenetics in the hard biology context. So there is probably epiphenomenon equivalent to epigenetics in brain to mind transition. What is that epiphenomenon? We know what is epigenetics. What is the epiphenomenon that makes us cognitively potent at individual level? Similarly, in epigenetics also, we are potent at individual level. So there are very, very interesting, fascinating future things to happen. I welcome all of you. I am a little bit envious of all of you because you are part of very, very interesting learning process, which some of us miss out, but we gain our learning through more offline thinking and reading. I would enjoy receiving the video recordings of these sessions, which I can benefit from in my offline sessions. Thank you very much. Namaste to all of you.
Thank you, sir, for aptly capturing the motives and comparing with the theoretical structures in biology. And many important thinkers now are also bringing these two fields together. In France, in UK, and in America. In our country, we have had strong traditions both in linguistics, biology, social sciences. The challenge for all of us is to bring them together
Yes.
and then proceed to do comprehensive research, more comprehensive than what we thought would answer some questions like 2 decades ago or so. this is where School of Medical Science, the way it has captured the diversity is also important to me. And the mandates of IOE, of which we are a part, and we are enjoying some of the opportunities that it has accorded to both teachers and students to go out and think new things. So all of this is coming together. So I would like to say this is a curtain raiser event, and which is planned in a hybrid mode. But two more important international events that I am planning this year would gather many more people live in Hyderabad. One in September on attention and mind, and the other one, the International Association for Cultural Cognitive Science annual conference, which will happen in Hyderabad. So these themes will reverberate again, and many more distinguished speakers will gather. So this is just a curtain raiser. I thank Professor Bijay for his time. And as always, he aptly captures the mood of the audience and the theme. So I'm very thankful, sir.